Happening now on Grid tonight. Legacy Motor Club is switching from Chevrolet to Toyota in 2024. Will this move allow the organization to take the next step to reaching its full potential? Media reports are saying that Audi Sport Customer Racing will end this sports car program at the end of the year. Is Audi making the right decision to go all in on Formula One? And only minutes before we just came on the air, IMSA announced that LMP3 will not return to the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship next year. Is this the best move given the GTP class's expected growth? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. With me is Joshua Bush, Ben Snyder, and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat below and ask any questions you may have. Now here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. I think the green screen's a little bit less convincing this week because my hair seems to be going the way of being parted at the side. I'll get that fixed for the sessions across the weekend. Okay, top story then. Legacy Motorsport Club is switching from Chevrolet to Toyota at the beginning of the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season, and after being at a number of disadvantage from the longest time, especially at Daytona and Talladega, there will be 8 full-time Toyota Camaros TDRDs in Cup next year. 2 Legacy Motors Club Toyotas will join the 4 entries from Joe Gibbs Racing and 2 from 23XI Racing. Now, Erik Jones and Noah Gragson will reunite with Toyota, the same manufacturer they started their NASCAR careers with. Over the years, Toyota lost drivers to Chevrolet or Ford because they couldn't provide a clear path to a Cup ride for its Toyota racing development drivers. The photo taken there by Chris Graham from Getty Images as well. Lovely image there as well. That would put a smile on my face. Boys, with the addition of Legacy Motor Club to the Toyota stable, a long overdue move as well by TRD to strengthen its Cup program, Matt.
Yeah, it really is long overdue, as you said. They've been at the bottom of the numbers game for some time now, and yeah, it's a big move to get those 2 guys back in Toyotas, especially Erik Jones, who had some success back in his days at JGR, and now he's going to be back behind the wheel of a Toyota. We've seen it, especially on the super speedways, where Toyota have had to tag along with Ford or Chevrolet in terms of strategy through the super speedway races in terms of pit stops. That's obviously going to help them out, but nice to see an extra couple of, it's not an extra couple of cars on the grid. It seems like it is, but it isn't really. It's just a switch across. But nice to see Toyota in this age of people pulling out of things and shuffling their deck. They're actually putting back in again, which Toyota seems to be doing a lot of recently. Talk about that when we get to WEC later on. But good to see them moving the pieces around of the puzzle. It's not Richard Petty's team anymore, is it? That's one of the major takeaways for me from this story, with all the shuffling that happened there at the start of the season. So a lot of things will play out, I'm sure, and we'll see how they get on next season. They've got to hope for a better run than they're having at the moment, because it's not been very good over the last few weeks for the Legacy team. But be interesting to see how they get on going forward next year.
I think it's going to help everybody. I think every time that we have a super speedway race that Toyota doesn't win, what's the one thing we come back to on these shows? The strength in numbers game is a massive, massive disadvantage for Toyota because they only have 6 cars, and Ford has 2.5 times that. Chevy has 3 times that. Well, now you take 2 Chevy cars and 3, I guess, if you want to throw the part-time car with Jimmie Johnson's running, and you bring them into the Toyota camp. It's still going to be a disadvantage for Toyota, but I believe this is the first time since 2011 that they're going to have this many. I mean, you have to go back to the days of Red Bull being in the Cup Series that Toyota had this much of a presence in the NASCAR Cup Series. So I think it's going to be absolutely massive for them, and really going to strengthen Legacy Motor Club as well. I know we'll get into that here in just a moment.
Yeah, and I want to quickly throw back to you, Ben, as well. I was just writing in the chat, actually, so you got to know. I noticed on your Twitter as well, and after the race, of course, many of the fans who have followed Jimmie Johnson from either most or all of his career a few of them are now saying that they're done with him because he's moving away from Chevrolet to Toyota. So can you just give us a bit of information about that? And because you were at the front of it as well with your tweet saying that it was ludicrous almost.
Yeah, well, that was a tweet that I didn't expect to gain as much traction as it did, but I think it's a sentiment that's shared by a lot of people in the industry. And it goes back to Toyota coming back into this sport in 2007 and even earlier in the Truck Series. I think, there's still this stereotype that NASCAR is a purely American sport, and we want nothing to do with Toyota, even though Toyota's roll out the assembly line here in the United States while Chevy and Ford get their parts from Mexico, but that's none of my business. Which car is truly the most American manufacturer in the Cup Series? But I mean, I just think it's crazy to me that I'm actually. I mean, you would think the guy committed murder. I mean, that's what that's the reaction that we're getting from some of these Facebook comments that this is a massive betrayal, that I can't support Jimmie Johnson anymore. I'm throwing away all my Jimmie Johnson stuff. He put a knife in my heart because he made a business decision that's going to benefit his new endeavor here as he transitions from driver to owner. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I also wanted to bring up as well, where did Jimmie Johnson spend the last 2 years of his career? He was driving an IndyCar. He was driving for Chip Ganassi, who runs Honda engines, where the only competition is which manufacturer?
Chevy and Honda.
There you
Me
go.
too.
So I just don't understand why. And listen, I totally get the whole win on Sunday, sell on Monday thing. That's been a thing since NASCAR's inception here, even though the cars aren't truly stock anymore. They haven't been for years. I get manufacturer loyalty, but to call out Jimmie Johnson like some of these fans have and say that this is an unforgivable sin, to see him in a Toyota, to see the 43 car in a Toyota, Richard Petty in a Toyota. I think people are taking it way too far. I think this is a smart business decision. And I think like I said, it's going to benefit both parties in the long run, not just Toyota, but also Legacy Motor Club to have that full TRD support. I just think people are making a mountain out of a molehill with this.
Matt, I'll follow. Oh yeah, go on. I was going to ask you a follow-up, but I think
on a similar kind of train of thought here. Nobody lost their collective when Michael Schumacher came back and went to Mercedes. He's a Ferrari man.
That was my question. You took the words right out. Wow.
Oh, okay. If Lewis Hamilton does go to Ferrari, he's not going to Ferrari. Will that the same thing happen? I don't know why this seems to be a kind of NASCAR thing, and maybe more so a Jimmie thing.
Matt, there are people that do not collect Toyota diecasts because they want. I mean, that's the level that they if their favorite a scheme that they really like is on a Toyota car, they won't. Yeah, I mean that's the level that some of these people take it to. They see Toyota and the alarm bells go off in their mind that Toyota is evil and has no place in this sport. This is an American sport. Get that Japanese fake manufacturer out of here. That's the mindset that they have. It's ridiculous.
My other NASCAR diecasts, which are just over in front of my telly, are also Chevrolets, but I also have the Ford thing here. So I don't know where I stand. I could be on all fronts here. I'm just a Journey fan.
You bring up a great point, actually, with the American manufacturers being there as well with Chevys as well. Now we're moving away to Toyota. A similar shift happened in MotoGP as well. They moved to more Japanese manufacturers as well, away from the traditional Europeans and the Italians as well. From Ducatis, they moved over as well. And it is a question is that we've seen since even in the mid-90s when Toyota actually brought out the Corolla as well. It's a very dependable technology firm nowadays, Toyota. But is it more that it's more of a spiritual impact? We know fans as well. There's the fans in the grandstands, and there's the fans sort of in the infield, in the mosh pit area as well. Is it more, do you think, them who are mainly affected, the people who live, breathe NASCAR as it's their sport, they built it? Or is it more of a sort of a general consensus that, well, he's always driven a Chevrolet, now he's going somewhere else, akin to Schumacher going from Ferrari and coming back with Mercedes? So is it a change of world, or is it a betrayal of country almost?
I guess I can take that. I think it's a little bit of both. I think some people brought up Tony Stewart as well. One of the replies to my tweet, and I can't verify this because just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true automatically. I think we all know that at this point. But and also I was 8 years old at the time, but somebody said that in 2008 when Gibbs went over to Toyota, Tony Stewart lost like half of his fan club. And then in 2009, when he joined forces with Haas and became an owner driver and was reunited with Chevrolet, he gained all of those lost fan club subscriptions back. But again, I think some people were upset when his team moved to Ford in 2017 as well. So there is that manufacturer loyalty, and again, that much I understand. But this idea that we're so anti-Toyota just because they're not American, I think that's it's an outdated way of thinking at worst, but also it's one that I simply don't understand.
Let's catch up on some. Oh, God.
Well, quickly, just similar thing kind of happened in supercars, didn't it? The cup last year when the Walkinshaw team, who were the Holden factory team for so many years, business decision, they changed to Ford. Oh, you can't do this. I'm not going to support you guys. They actually gained fans from this, from their metrics of social media and everything else. So it's a bit like when Austin Dillon came up. Ben, you'll know when he came up, they can't run the free. That number should never be used again, etc. We don't talk about it now. This is just because it's in the news. Everyone loses their collective over it. Next week, something else will happen, and no one will care.
And I hate making stick and ball sports comparisons, but I was trying to think of one yesterday. And again, one of the replies to my tweet that came in, I think hits it right on the head. Again, as much as you can try to make the comparison, imagine if you're a fan of, an NFL team or an NBA team here in the States, and you like wearing Adidas gear yourself, and they wear Adidas gear, they provide their uniforms, and then they say, okay, we're switching to Nike next year, they're a new partner. Are you really going to revoke your fan, your favorite hometown sports team for 30 years if they switch from Adidas to Nike? I mean, that's essentially what you're doing here. The engines supply the equipment, or a huge part of your equipment, for your team, and you're going to walk away from 20 years of being a Jimmie Johnson fan just because he's going to start driving a Toyota. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, let's catch up on some comments then we've got coming through. Adam Lenrus, hello Adam, says, shout out to Legacy Motorsport Club for bringing back the iconic STP paint scheme for the All-Stars race on Erik Jones's car. Absolutely fantastic. Matthew as well. Oh, sorry, Kobe's back stage pushing the buttons, I think. Personally, I think this is much ado about mostly nothing. Everyone brings up the lack of numbers on super speedways, but Hamlin has won multiple times at Daytona and Talladega. Goes on to say as well, I don't know, thank you. As well, Erik Jones also got a win in this window of time at Daytona with Toyota. TRD has always talked about not wanting to do this because it split attention from the other teams. Now they have here as well. Anything you want to say about that, Ben?
I mean, Justin Haley got a win at a super speedway, in that Spire car. I don't think we're saying it's impossible for Toyota to win with their lack of numbers here. I just think, sometimes when, and again, attrition plays a big part of it as well. So often we see the big wrecks, but I think very often during these races, sometimes it is helpful, especially when you're pitting. I think a lot of times Toyotas have to come down the same lap as some of the Chevys and some of the Fords. So I don't think it's a deal breaker. Like you mentioned, Matthew, Erik Jones got a win. Denny Hamlin is one of the best super speedway racers in the Cup Series, but I do think having a couple more cars, it might give them a little bit more of a leg up in 2024 and beyond here.
Absolutely. William Byron all the way from Enable DRS 27 as well. Behind the mic again, Matthew, saying is doing something they've not wanted to do for the last 6 to 8 years because of split attention worth it for 6 races a year? That's a good question, actually. Is it worth it for 6 races a year? I think it is, because I think the Toyota we've seen be quite quick this season so far. It has had issues, but in pace, it's not bad. Race pace is where it is. Single lap is quite good.
Well, here's another thing, and I've heard this brought up on David Land's podcast yesterday. They were talking about the legacy switch to Toyota here. We're all talking about there's going to be 8 cars next year. There's a situation going on right now with Denny Hamlin and FedEx supposedly being in a contract year and us not being sure if FedEx is going to re-up, and it could be a repeat. Because this time last year, we all thought, they'll get a deal done with Kyle Busch and they'll find a replacement sponsor for M&M's. So what happens if Denny Hamlin ends up leaving Joe Gibbs Racing? Would he start a third team at his own team that he co-owns now? And if he leaves Joe Gibbs Racing, he's not necessarily, I think, held to Toyota over on the 2311 side of things. Maybe they go manufacturer shop. I mean, things can change so quickly in the sport. As of right now, We think there's going to be 8 cars full time. We may see something happen with this Hamlin FedEx fallout if we're trying to kind of play 4D chess here, like I think David and Kyle were trying to do last night. Who knows what's going to happen? But I don't know that, the super speedway thing, again, I'm sure that that's, we're going to talk about this, the 6 times a year that we have the super speedways, but I'm sure there are business aspects to it as well that are going into this that none of us certainly have any insider information about. That's got to play a part of it as well.
A few more coming through. Enable DOS also saying, I like all the manufacturers. I think we all like all the manufacturers, trying to remain as neutral as possible. Adam's like you, Matt. I collect Toyota die-cast cars too. Someone does. I think I've got one somewhere around as well that I was probably given. Behind the mic also says, I also don't think it helps Toyota's case that they've had a lot of polarizing drivers and personalities. Stewart, Kyle Busch, Hamlin, etc. as well. And I actually agree with Matthew there. He's got it spot on because they're big names that have got bigger personalities, and when things don't go wrong, they tend to use their cars as a bit of battering rams.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, Bubba Wallace as well, quite possibly. And again, not all of that's his fault, why he's one of the most polarizing drivers, but, it is a trend that we have seen with Toyota over the years for sure.
I don't know what that little orange thing was at the top of the screen. I'll just turn around and have a look. Okay, we've caught up with the comments then as well. And I think the third story has been completed now with the breaking news. All of that bit was just unscripted, by the way. So great job, team. Okay, so after Erik Jones is number 43, we mentioned earlier, remember, overachieved on several occasions last season, and the addition of 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Jimmie Johnson to the ownership group, Legacy Motorsport Club as well, entered 2023 with higher expectations. Jones winning the Southern 500 at Darlington was a surprise, and had many thinking they could build off this victory to potentially make the playoffs this season. Jones finished 11th in the Cup Series last year, and his teammate Ty Dillon finished 29th. The 43 was the flagship car and showed the most potential. Are we really surprised about that there with 43? Now, after 11 races in 2023, Jones is currently 24th in the standings, only 2 top 10s he's managed. Meanwhile, his rookie teammate, Noah Gragson, is 32nd, having a really challenging start to his first season as a full-time Cup Series driver. We saw that, of course, at Dover on Monday, spinning out and bringing out the caution as well and being out of the race. Now, Gragson had a lot of momentum coming from the Xfinity Series and has plenty of potential to succeed at Cup level. A team thought to be on the rise is going through some ups and downs, with 1/3 of the season almost in the books. Jimmie Johnson has released this statement now as well. I will always be appreciative of Team Chevy and what we've accomplished together. Starting in 2024, I'm excited for Legacy Motor Club to be partnered with at Toyota Racing and forge a new legacy in the future. And there you can see the original Legacy Motorsport tweet below saying Legacy Motorsport Club to partner with Toyota Racing beginning with the 2024 season. A lovely little 2024 already being a bit too real now, as we're now in the month of May. And with it being May the 4th tomorrow, I have worn my Star Wars shirt, of course. Now, boys, since the season hasn't started the way we expected for the team, will the switch to Toyota be a good thing for them in the long term as they hope to become more competitive? We sort of danced around the issue of fans not saying it. We've sort of said, yes, it could be good, but are they going to be more competitive with this car?
Well, again, I'll turn the clock back to 2008, the last time we saw a major Chevy partner switch over to Toyota with Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Busch was coming over. That was also happening at the same time. He was leaving Hendrick to come to Gibbs, and he won 8 races that year before the chase even began. Now, we fell off a lot during the chase and ended up, I think, 10th in the final standings. So kind of had a late season collapse there, but he came out firing all cylinders right out of the gate and had one of the best, certainly first 26 races of his career, or regular seasons, I guess you can say now, even though you all know how I feel about the playoffs and the regular season distinction. But, he came out of the gate and was winning races left and right. Now, I'm not saying that Erik Jones is going to win 8 races next year before the playoffs even begin, or Noah Gragson's going to win a bunch of races. But I do think, and I mean, especially in Gragson's case, let's be honest, it'd be hard to get much worse than the start to the season that he's had in particular. I do think you're going to see this benefit not just Toyota, like we were just mentioning in the first segment, but also Legacy MC as well. I think that they are certainly going to benefit from having this new partnership, and both their cars are going to take a step up in performance in 2024 from where they are now.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything Ben's just said there. There'll be, although the Toyota data pool will be bigger, Legacy will be taking their data from a smaller pool. There's so many Chevrolets at the moment, so that will benefit them. They've not had a great start to this season whatsoever. So let's see. As we've said, lots of things can change between as we sit here on the 3rd of May recording the show and the end of the season and the beginning of next. So lots of things also may switch about, but I think they're just getting themselves lined up nicely to have a bit of a push next year. 3rd season with the new car, of course, it won't be so new then next year, but for them to get themselves in with a new manufacturer there. 2 youngish, hungry drivers. Erik Jones has been around a long time, but he's still got plenty of years in him. So, yeah, I think it's lining up to be good, but as I say, it's got to be going better than they've been this season because it's been pretty terrible so far to this point.
It has, and we saw that more, of course, on Monday. Now, with the switch to Toyota, along with what we've been saying, everybody talking about Jimmie Johnson, everyone has also questions about co-owner of Maury Gallagher's plans for his GMS racing operation in the NASCAR Craftsman's Truck Series. Yesterday, Gallagher participated in a virtual press conference as well with the media and said GMS and Legacy Motor Club are 2 different businesses. He'll decide whether he'll stick with Chevrolet or move to Toyota in trucks in the next few months so the team can start laying out their plans for 2024. Ben, I know you're going to be leaving us in a minute, but one last question to you. Is the GMS switch to Toyota a likely scenario? And what would this possibly mean for a team that has been home to Chevrolet's young development drivers over the years?
Well, Kyle Busch Motorsports has been home to Toyota's young development drivers, and Kyle Busch's move to RCR didn't stop them from switching over to Chevrolet. So I would think that you would see GMS make the move to Toyota here, despite what everybody seems to be saying at the moment. But I am reminded, Team Penske runs Chevrolet engines in the IndyCar series, and they run with Fords in NASCAR, Chevy's main competition. So, being under the same name or the same banner doesn't always imply that you're going to work with the same engine manufacturer when you have the opportunity to. Now, I think there's probably going to be more overlap from the Cup Series to the Truck Series with the GMS involvement in Legacy, on that side of things than there is from 2 completely different racing series. But I don't think it's a necessity necessarily, but I would be surprised if this switch doesn't get announced eventually, but GMS is going to start running Toyotas. I just think from a business perspective, it would make sense to have, your entire entity under one manufacturer there. And I think eventually you would see the truck team make that transition over as well. And Matthew says that 2008 season was probably more to do with the driver than the Toyota. Do we think if J.J. Yaley stayed in the 18 in 2008, he would have won any races, Hamlin and Stewart combined, for just 1 win? Well, he got the winning done in a Toyota, and he only won 1 race in 2007 with Chevrolet. So, Hamlin and Stewart combined for 2 wins in 08. Yeah, I would have thought Hamlin would have picked up one in 2008. I just saw that the clip was just circulating of that Richmond race with Kyle Busch and Dale Jr. and that finish that everybody remembers, what the race that Clint Boyer won. I think a lot of people forget. I think Denny Hamlin led like 370 laps that night or something. It was a very unfortunate deal for him at the end that took him out of contention there. So the team still had some strong runs. Obviously, Kyle Busch was the main dominant force in that team in 2008. But it'll be interesting to see. I could definitely still see that step being taken forward with this new Toyota partnership. I think it's going to, maybe not in the first year, lead to a championship for Erik Jones and Noah Gragson, but I think it's going to be a good stepping stone for them going forward in the future.
I just want to make a quick correction. I've read out the wrong number. Of course, Jones finished 18th in the Cup Series last year, and Ty Dillon finished in 29th. I was going further down on my script. That's how we work it quickly. Well, Ben, thank you very much for joining us for the NASCAR segment as well. And we look forward to seeing you over the weekend as we hit Hard Rock as well at the same time as the NASCAR race as well. So I hope you've got 2 TVs set up.
I got to tell you guys, I don't understand this obsession with later start times. We just had a noon start at Dover. The ratings were up, and now we insist on going directly against the race that got the greatest number of ratings in the United States on the Formula One side of things in 2022. So we'll see what the ratings look like. I think total ratings-wise, NASCAR is still going to win pretty easily. It's that 1849 demo that the advertisers look at that could be a lot closer than people think. So we'll keep an eye on that. And Matthew just looked at the stats. Hamlin 381 of the 400 laps that night before a flat tire. There you go. He was on his way to leading almost every lap that night, and then circumstances said it wasn't meant to be.
It astounds me how Matthew can just remember these stats off the top. It was what, 15 years ago? You can still remember it? That's amazing. Okay. Thank you, Ben, as well. Take care. We'll see you at the weekend as well.
Thank you, guys.
And coming into our second story of the evening, 28 minutes later, according to motorsporttotal.com, Audi Sport Customer Racing is expected to shut down at the end of 2023. Within the last several months, we've seen several drivers leave their Andretti factory driver status, such as Rene Rast, Nico Muller, Robin Fines, and Kelvin van der Linde. As we already know, Audi is coming to Formula One in 2026 and started to downsize its racing footprint to focus on its new F1 project. In 2020, Audi left DTM, then Formula E in 2021, and the Audi LMDH project was cancelled altogether. Now, with the Audi Sport Customer Racing program likely to go away, this would mean the end of its involvement in GT2, GT3, GT4, and TCR. The link to the article is in the video description below, and the photo courtesy there of Audi. Welcoming back Kobe and keeping Matt in as well. Kobe, has the writing been on the wall for a while now?
Yeah, it's really been on the wall for a while. And if you've been following our Grit Tonight shows, we've been talking about all of these Audi driver departures and trying to figure out what in the world does it mean. And I think it's safe to say now we have our answer. Audi's decided to go all in on Formula One. And by going all in, that means they have to cut the rest of their racing programs. And I never thought I'd see it a day where we probably have no Audi representation in sports car racing anywhere in the world. And looking at Audi's presence here in America, it's really fallen off big time. I remember during the early days of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in IMSA, after they had the merger of Grand Am and the American Le Mans Series, we had quite a few Audis on the grid in the GT categories. But now, Audi's basically non-existent, whether it's in the WeatherTech Championship and also the GT World Challenge stuff as well. So yeah, the writing has definitely been on the wall for a while now, and now it seems like that Audi Sport Customer Racing is gonna go away. Yeah, and this is just been reported. It hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but typically when outlets like this report this information, they typically end up to be correct 9 times out of 10.
Yes, it's a real shame, isn't it? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we have swaves of teams going with different manufacturers, be it BMW or Lamborghini or Ferrari when new cars come out and things like that. But as you said, this has been bubbling away in the background for a while. It kind of all started when they did pull that plug on the LMDH project. When was that? 18 months or so ago now, maybe more. As Adam says, simply dominant at Le Mans back in the day. And on the rallying stages before that, let's not forget, that's where they really did make their name in motorsport. Will never forget the four-wheel drive touring cars back in the classic DTM days, and Frank Beeler winning in a British Championship in the mid-90s. But the GT, they have been a staple of GT racing since the old diesel Audis went away. However long ago that was, and then we obviously had Toyota, Porsche, and Audi in WEC at the beginning of the WEC era. But the last handful of years, their GT cars have been racking up trophies and victories all over the world. Nürburgring, Spa, Bathurst, you name it, they've done it. And in TCR, they've been very successful as well with the Audi, the RS3. So it's a real shame to see that this is potentially disappearing, as Kobe said, not yet confirmed, but with all the drivers leaving the program and lots of teams switching away from Audi this season that were staples of them for a little while, the writing certainly looks to be on the wall. And all this for Formula One, it just seems very, very odd to me. This isn't the Audi that we know and love.
Well, it leads me perfectly on to ask you this, Matt. We've seen the current manufacturers involved in F1 also do have racing activities elsewhere. I'll throw it right back to your own words. Is Audi making a big mistake by putting all its eggs in one basket?
Yeah, I really think it is. I mean, you look at Ferrari. They've been out of top-line sports car racing for a long time now. And they're back in this year in the WEC, and they're on the podium. They're not quite on the Toyota pace, but they're there or thereabouts. Obviously, we're now in the countdown to two of the biggest races of the year, Indy 500 in a couple of weeks' time, and then Le Mans in 6 weeks. So Ferrari making big strides there. They've got the new GT3 car coming in this year as well. It's had a couple of victories, but that will only get better with time. It's just going to be weird to tune into a Nürburgring or a Bathurst or a Daytona, the big races of the sports car year, the GT year, and not see any Audis on the grid. There hasn't been any talk of a R8 replacement. This is the second Evo of it that they're using now, but in the road car terms, it really hasn't been talked about, as far as I know, in the motoring press rather than the motorsport press. But in the motoring press, that there was going to be a new R8 or an R9 or whatever it would be called next coming along. And with all this, moving towards hybrid and electrified technology in the road going things, maybe that, with obviously hybrid in F1, maybe that is all channeling Audi's resources towards that profile.
And with Audi going all in on Formula One, they better hope as they lay down their plan that Audi will be able to be very successful in Formula One and up into the points. I'm not gonna say that they're gonna have to go out there and win, compete for world championships and all of that, because it's really difficult coming into Formula One and trying to get started. Some enter Formula One and struggle for the longest times, while some will enter and they'll be competitive. Almost immediately, we still have several years to go until this Audi project comes online, but all I have to say is they better hope that they're making the right decision here, or they could end up with egg on their face instead of eggs all in one basket. Yeah, as Matt was saying, it's quite a shame to see that Audi's is more than likely going to be out of sports car racing and focusing all in on Formula One. It's also a big shame that LMDH project also fell apart as well. I know Team WRT was planning to run that, and then they ended up switching to BMW because they wanted to go prototype racing, and they will be running in the World Endurance Championship full-time with BMW next year. So Team WRT will still get to go run for overall wins. Unfortunately, that Audi project is going to have to go away. I remember the Audi also signed drivers for that LMDH project as well. So yeah, and then as we know in motorsports, things change really fast, and this is the decision that Audi's decided to do.
Literally just Googling German pastries to see what I could say in order to what they could use those eggs for. They do have it on, but I'm not actually getting anything. So, does schnitzels have them? I'm not sure. It's kind of, I don't know. It's okay. If somebody can find out
what the German word for patisserie is, just across the border.
I've no idea. It's more Belgium, isn't it, with the waffles that you can make with eggs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If somebody, Oracle might know, Matthew, you might know something. I know you do. Okay, either so, I know some cracking pancakes we can make as well. And they are American style, guys, so that you'll enjoy those. Okay, our third story of the evening as well, and this was literally breaking news, which is why we went off topic earlier on as well, to give Kobe a great chance to finish this script. In 2024, a 4-class format will return to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship after the elimination of the LMP3 category at the end of the year. GTP, LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD will be the 2024 lineup in the multi-class racing series. LMP3 will have a new home racing exclusively in the IMSA VP Racing Sports Car Challenge through 2026. Now, with IMSA expecting a new GTP manufacturer to join Acura, BMW, Cadillac, and Porsche next year, along with more customer entries, eliminating the LMP3 class will certainly create more space on the grid for additional GTPs. Also, the LMP2 class will stay throughout the 2025 season. Kobe, starting with you, is IMSA making a good business decision to remove the LMP3s from the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship?
Honestly, Josh, I think it was the only move that IMSA could do, and it's kind of like what you're seeing over in the World Endurance Championship, talking about the potential two cars per manufacturer. We talked about it several weeks ago here on this show to try to make space for all of those cars that are going to be competing in the hypercar class. And then if it gets really big, there's also been talks that potentially LMP2 could go away from the World Endurance Championship for the entire season outside of Le Mans. And their only places could be IMSA, Asian Le Mans Series, and the European Le Mans Series. But talking about IMSA, it seemed like LMP, if one class had to go, it certainly had to be LMP3. They're not going to get rid of the GT cars at all. LMP2's future is still up in the air, but it's still confirmed for at least a couple of more seasons. And GTP class, that's where all the money is going to be made and all of that. So I think looking at all the space available in the paddock, the big thing, it has to do with space. And if you have 10, like 8, 9, 10 LMP3 cars taking up space, like for manufacturers that want to come in, it's going to be really difficult. And you know that the manufacturers are the big dogs at the end of the day. So that's where IMSA has to give top priority. So it's no surprise to me to see that they're going to remove LMP3, especially with the expected growth. I know, and they're going to have some, as you mentioned, Josh, some customer entries coming in. Starting next week at WeatherTech Race, we're going to have JDC Miller Motorsports running one of the first customer Porsches. And then that new manufacturer who's talked about is Lamborghini, which is planning to run the IMSA endurance races next year. So really exciting times for the GTP class. And IMSA wants to make sure that they have room for absolutely everyone who wants to enter that class, so they don't have to turn any away. And also one of the things about LMP3, a lot of the drivers get really frustrated. Drivers in other class, they get really frustrated with that class because they just feel like the LMP3 cars are just in the way, just like its predecessor, the Le Mans Prototype Challenge class.
Yeah, exactly. These cars are a little bit long in the tooth now. So, as you say, Kobe, they had to make space somewhere. The GT classes were never going to go away. They've obviously still got a lot of manufacturer involvement in them themselves. Good news that LMP2 has been kind of re-signed and re-upped for a couple more years. And obviously that is the main category, as you said, in the European and Asian championships. It's good to see that they're back. But, you know, the LMP3 was the fifth wheel as such. A lot of amateur drivers in there. We've seen over the years in the long races, Daytona and Sebring, especially at Sebring this year, that they've caused a lot of carnage. So they've got themselves a new home to go to in the VP Racing Challenge, which started this year. So that's already going and has seen an influx of new entries. So the cars will race on, but it looks like they aren't going to be, or confirmed 20 minutes or so before we went on the air tonight, that category has gone away from IMSA for next year. So we're going to see a final hurrah for LMP3 at the Motor Petit Le Mans in October.
Indeed. And now let's go back to Matt White for the latest from the Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. Continuing the sports car discussion then with another week of endurance performance index races. We had a good chunk of them over the weekend. The main one on Saturday afternoon at a cold and damp Spa in front of 70,000 fans, which was great to see. The third race of the WEC happened, and it was won by Toyota. Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jose Maria Lopez getting the victory. Their second win of the year. Rui Andrade, Robert Kubica, and Louis Delatraz winning in LMP2. And a big story in the GTE class, which you'll hear about more on the Women in Motorsport show later on this week. Luis Perez Companc, Alessio Rivera, and Lilo Radu becoming the first female to win a WEC race over the weekend. There's the new EPI top 10 for week 4, and it is full of 6 of the top 10 from Toyota hypercar drivers, with Ryo Hirakawa and Sebastian Buemi joint leading after 3 WEC races, 2 seconds and a win for those guys from the first couple of races. Brendan Hartley, who was the leader, has slipped to third. He's got one more race to his name because he started at Daytona for the Wayne Taylor team at the beginning of the year. So that's why he slipped down in terms of his point score, even though they came second at the weekend. He's part of that Buemi Hirakawa lineup. Those three all together in the same car. So top three Toyotas, and then Kobayashi, Conway, and Lopez also there within the top 10 as well. A couple more races just to bring you the results off from the weekend at Perth in Australia. We had the next round of GT World Challenge Australia. 2 races, Yasser Shahin and Garnet Patterson getting a win for Porsche. The first Porsche win in that championship for 4 or 5 years. So that was good to see them coming through. Liam Talbot looked like he had that race wrapped up before damage, but they came back to win, Liam and Max Hoffer, on Sunday to win the second race. And the second round of the American GT World Challenge was at New Orleans Motorsport Park at the weekend, and the same results from the first round at Sebring. Erik Figueres and Stephen McAleer winning on Saturday, and George Kurtz and Colin Braun winning on Sunday. So that's the 3 races or 3 categories that we had racing over the weekend. There's the top 60 now on your screen, if you can pick out your favourite up there towards the top. So we've now got WEC included from their 3 races. We've actually got the next race of the EPI starting in about 6 hours' time if you're watching this live, because it's the Golden Day celebrations in Japan tomorrow, a national holiday, and that means it's Fuji for Super GT. 5:30 UK time that race starts. So if you're in and about the world at that time of day, you can watch some Super GT 400-kilometre race. That starts off this weekend's EPI points scoring races. And then we've got the Silverstone 3-hour race for British GT on Sunday. And the 24-hour series heads to Spa this week. It's their turn to go round at Spa. It's 12 hours for them this weekend at Spa. So another busy weekend, and it kicks off, as I say, in hours' time with that Super GT race at Fuji. We'll bring you all of the results and an updated point score on next week's show.
Thanks, Matt. Next, more news around motorsports. Don't really have much to add, but Andretti Autosport is expanding its IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship program into the GTD ranks. Jared Andretti and Gabby Chavez will share the number 94 Aston Martin Vantage GT3 in select IMSA races. Their first race will be next weekend at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. The additional program comes after the team previously announced an LMP3 program for the Michelin Endurance Cup events. And Andretti said they've been working towards a GTD program since the end of 2020. I hope to do a full GTD season in 2024. And with the news that just come through about LMP3 been eliminated from IMSA next year, this program makes a lot more sense now. Juan Pablo Montoya will return to IMSA competition for 3 races in LMP2. Montoya will replace Pietro Fittipaldi in the number 51 Rick Ware race and Orco 7 Gibson. JPM's first race will be next weekend at Laguna Seca. We'll also see him at Road America and the IMS Road Course with co-driver Eric Lux. Mercedes F1 team principal Toto Wolff has been appointed as an executive fellow at the Harvard Business School. He'll serve as a guest lecturer alongside Professor Anita Elbersay. Wolff will share his knowledge on high-performance leadership, organizational communication, and personal effectiveness. In 2021, Elbersay gained exclusive access to the Mercedes F1 team to observe how they prepared for races, competed, and analyzed their performances in the races. She used her research to collaborate with Wolff on a popular Harvard Business Review article titled "Number One in Formula One," and starting in January 2024, Wolff and the professor will team up again to teach a course for first and second year MBA students at the University of Harvard titled Mercedes F1 Leading a High Performance Team, photo courtesy of Mercedes F1. And guys, I have a question for everyone. How do I apply to Harvard? How do I get in? I want to take that class taught by Toto Wolff. I really want to take that class.
I know, I'd love it if I walked in. I would run to a class if my tutor was Toto Wolff. But Kevin, can we just bring that image back up for a second? Because I've never seen this before in my life. Look at that. The names of all the students on their desk. And it's both ways. So those behind know who they are. And those in front know who they are. That is a brilliant idea. I've never seen it. That's why Harvard's a big brain. That is brilliant. Because then everybody knows each other. And there's no disrespect. That is fantastic. I assume as well, if we're going into a modern generation as well, and everyone's accepted, their pronouns would probably be added to that as well, and what they identify as. But that is fantastic. I love that. I want one of those on my desk in the commentary box as well, just so everybody knows who I am.
Remember those names. They'll be running F1 teams in the next 5 years, the ones you just saw on screen.
They will indeed. And now I believe we've got Pick a Winner. That's our favourite game.
We have Pick a Winner, which has caught me by surprise because I completely forgot we had to do this tonight because it's Monaco coming up this week for Formula E. They're the best race on the Formula E calendar. What a cracker it was last year. And yeah, I know you might scuffle at that, Josh.
Really?
Cape Town was brilliant, but this is the best place for a Formula E race.
It's the fact it doesn't compute when you say Monaco and best race of the season.
But yeah, well, we're used to that, aren't we? But yeah, Pick a Winner to come then. Out of Berlin, which was a bit of a crazy one. I've got absolutely no idea, so I'll hand it over to one of you two while I have some thinking time.
Okay, going into Monaco, I've got a feeling, I keep saying this, but Jake Dennis might do well. But I'm sticking with my guns with what I've been thinking for the past couple of weeks. I think Mitch Evans is going to win in Monaco. I can remember the moves he's done here in the past. I can remember loads of things. He's going to do it, isn't he? Once again, that Jaguar begging for more wins as well after Berlin. So I'm going to stick with my guns, and it's Mitch Evans for the win in Monaco.
And I'm gonna go with the driver who had a hot start to the season. Seems like everybody's really catching up. Give me Pascal Wehrlein to get it done and win the Formula E Monaco E-Prix.
I'm going to be really boring and agree with Josh. I think Mitch is going to win to Monaco this weekend. They were very good.
Hey.
And Adam agrees with us as well. So that's 3 of us on board. Ed pulled away, didn't he, at the weekend in the Pick a Winner standings? He got a point over a couple of us. So Ed's back on top as far as I'm aware in Pick a Winner. We'll have more Pick a Winners to come over the weekend with obviously the Grand Prix. Only the one F1 race this weekend, of course, after the sprint in Baku and NASCAR as well. So more Pick a Winner action to come over the weekend. So that's Pick a Winner done and dusted. Time for Hots and Knots. Josh, I'm going to let you go first because, as I said before we got going tonight, I have a list on both. We'll start with Hots, though. What have you got?
Okay, my hot is Josh Berry. I thought that was a fantastic performance in the 48, finishing ahead of Chase Elliott as well. 10th for Berry, 11th for Elliott. I thought that was really strong. And I know he's, what is he, 37 or something like that? Maybe 33? I can't remember what age he is now. But seriously, get him in the Cup Series full time. What's he doing in Xfinity? He is too fast to be there. Get him in Cup Series full time. More hots. Really enjoyed actually the Formula One sprint. Usually across the weekend I go like, oh, it's a sprint weekend. Oh no, but I actually sort of ran with it, and I didn't feel it was weird having a race on a Saturday and a Sunday. So it wasn't a bad one in my opinion. I think the qualifying format did help, but I still don't see the point of it, that we should still just have the race on Sunday, because I think it robbed us of a good chance. But I do think, give me Sam Bird just for the heck of it, says Ben. Yeah, I just think is Sam going to win the Formula E as well. That's something I've cropped into my head. It'd be poetic if he did. But I think that's another hot, definitely, is the fact is that the sprint race was actually the best race of the weekend compared to Sunday. So that was quite fun. Berry would be 33-year-old rookie if he moves to Cup next year. Thank you, Ben. But yeah, so there's my 2 hots. I'm struggling to think of another one. What else was on at the weekend? We had Oliver Behrman. There we go.
Yes.
Sweeping the first ever F2 driver to sweep practice, qualifying, sprint race, and feature race. Brilliant job. I think I've covered it.
I didn't realise he had swept all the sessions. I know he did the pole lap with the broken steering wheel. So that was my top hot of the weekend. And by the way, to follow up on Josh Berry, news this week that he's signed with Kevin Harvick's management company. So if he's not going to the 4-car next year, we'll be all massively surprised. But yeah, Behrman was my top hot of the list. A brilliant job all weekend. The Saturday race, especially for F2, was superb with the late restart there when he nipped through when all of the leaders ended up in the fence. So that was quite cool, and that kid is going places, and Ferrari have got a good one on their books there. Also, another Azerbaijan hot, the national anthem before the Grand Prix, superb with the flags and the dresses, really, really cool. That's how you do a national anthem, folks. Supercars at the weekend was brilliant at Perth, especially the Saturday race. Great to see both Erebus cars winning. They are taking it to Red Bull at the moment, and Brady Kostecki extended his point lead over the weekend, so that was super cool with that win again. Even though he lost against SVG on the Saturday race, great to see him extend his point lead. We mentioned it before we went on air. McLaughlin versus Grosjean on Sunday night in that IndyCar race was absolutely superb. And if you're not watching IndyCar, why not get yourself in front of a television, especially this month as we head towards Indianapolis? Brilliant. The McLaughlin fist pumping incident in Victory Lane, if anyone saw that with the fan with the Grosjean t-shirt on, superb. And my last hot of the weekend, Miami, of course, this weekend. My last hot of the weekend was the Truexes, both of them winning across the weekend. Really, really cool to see Ryan finally get a victory, and Martin on Monday.
Third win at Dover for Truex Jr. 07 was his first ever career win, 1 in 09 as well.
There you go. Josh has still got his notes to hand from Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Yeah. So that's the good bits of the weekend. What have you got on the not side?
Right, I'll take it because I know you said you haven't got it. I'll take MotoGP, and the biggest not of all has to be Freddie Spencer, because his stewarding this weekend. I mentioned it on Monday's show as well, and in the Sunday's wrap up. But Freddie Spencer, if he is not sacked with immediate effect, I think we've got a serious, serious problem on our hands. The stewarding this weekend has been all over the place. I've just today caught up with the Moto3 and Moto2 from the weekend. I commentated on that. That's going to be released tomorrow morning on my channel. And in that, Dennis Onchu cut the corner and only got 3 seconds added to his time with a track limits extension. Then in the Moto2 race, the same driver cut the corner and got a long lap penalty. Now, the long lap penalty is around about 8 seconds loss on track, not 3. So that was inconsistent because Onchu got it, the long lap penalty, never served it, and was given the 3 seconds post-race. It's not right. Then we've got to look at Fabio Quartararo. We'll start on the sprint, first of all, with Saturday. Franco Morbidelli was involved in the crash that brought out the red flag. Morbidelli got the penalty, even though he was tagged by Alex Marquez. Why was that? Then go into Sunday's race as well. On the start, Quartararo got tagged by Bezzecchi, and Oliveira was on his outside line, already in contact with him. Quartararo was sandwiched, nowhere to go. Somehow Freddie Spencer deems it's okay to give Fabio Quartararo a penalty. And then when Quartararo, who, by the way, we now know was unconscious in that gravel trap as well, and when he came to, immediately went back to the pit lane, the concussion doctor came in with nothing, no medication, just literally looked at him for 2 minutes and let him go. The total time from Quartararo's crash to his back on a bike getting ready to leave for the restart was 6 minutes. Now, in football and everything else, with the head concussion protocol, it takes 8 minutes to identify if somebody is in a concussed state. 8 minutes. He was back on the bike within 6. That is ridiculous. And then, because he was in a dazed state during the race, he couldn't see safely enough to rejoin on the track. So he was looking behind. I'm going to take this out. He was looking behind him constantly to make sure that he wasn't going to interfere with a rider coming on the racing line, because the long lap penalty is at the last corner. And with doing that, he accidentally touched the green. Now, yes, automatically it's a penalty, but in this instance, it's not gaining an advantage. He was trying to come back on the track safely. What does Freddie Spencer do? The chief steward of MotoGP gives him another long lap penalty. It was abysmal. Bagnaia, going for a late move on the inside down at turn 6, just forces Jack Miller off a little bit. Bagnaia immediately apologised. Jack was angry, but it was hard, fair racing. Jack Miller then does exactly the same a few laps later as well on one of the Prima Pramacs, I think it was Jorge Martin, and doesn't get a penalty for it. Exactly the same move, doesn't get a penalty. And yet, Freddie Spencer gives Bagnaia, orders him to drop 1 place behind Jack Miller. And what was the point? It was so bad. I thought Neil Hodgson was going to have a complete argument with him on the, over the commentary. It was unbelievable. Freddie Spencer has never talked to the media. He's never talked to the riders, and he's never talked to Dorna. That's because it's from the IMRT, the independent runners of the stewards in Dorna. For the first time ever, next weekend, he is talking to Dorna, to the media, and to the riders because they are fed up of him. This all started back in 2019 Argentina when Kyle Crutchlow rolled ever so slightly before the lights went out. There was no advantage given, and he got slammed with a ride-through penalty as well. That really hurt his race. So the riders are furious. Dorna's angry. Everybody is like, why is he still here? So he's been called practically out and has got to explain himself. So that's going to be fun. And it's also going to be MotoGP's 1000th Grand Prix in France. So we are really in for a cracker. So yeah, that's my biggest knot of the weekend. And it really is the only one I've got because Freddie Spencer must go. Absolutely must go.
It's one of the only races I haven't caught up with yet from the weekend, but I did see the still of Fabio rejoining from his first long lap penalty, and just crazy. One of my knots is penalty rejoining related, and that was J.N. Deruvula in the F2 race on Sunday morning. Yeah. If the track's built to a position where you can't see, and the cars you can't see out of, you kind of have to come back on. Yes, it was a penalty. 10 seconds for getting in Zane Maloney's way I thought was a bit harsh. Probably should have been 5, but hey. Other knots, Renger van der Zander's crash at Spa at the top of Eau Rouge on Saturday on cold tyres in the yellow Cadillac. That was a nasty one. We've seen some big accidents there over the years. Of course, Lando Norris in qualifying the other year, Kevin Magnussen in the Renault. They've improved the safety of that corner, but when you've got absolutely zero grip, then it's not really a corner, is it? It's a straight with a kink in it. Then you're going to be straight to the scene of the accident, as Martin Brundle would say. But my two biggest knots of the weekend, I'll save the Formula 1 till last. We'll go to NASCAR. Somebody needs to put a sock in Ross Chastain and do it quickly because he will continue to just get away with all these things, it seems. What Brendan Poole did to deserve being shunted by Ross there on lap 80 of 400 when he was passing him to put a lap on him and took out what could have been one of the contenders for the race win, although again Ross did contend for the race win at the end, but Kyle Larson's car was a jet and he ended up with a poor finish because of it. But that's another week in a row. Ross was of course at the center of part of the controversy at Talladega last week for his incident with Noah Gragson towards the end. So the numbers are racking up on Ross, and are they all just going to jump out of his way at Kansas next week when he comes to lap cars? We'll see. Go on, Josh. I think you've got your clipboard back in your hand.
I have. Larson finished 41 laps down on the race. That's how bad he was running in the top 3 in the first 80 laps of the race. So it was a major disappointment. And I love how Fox even took the mickey by doing the "thanks, Ross" as well things throughout the broadcast. But you're right. He has to be stopped. And I love at the end of the race, I said this on the Encore show on Monday, Larson got in the way of Chastain and Truex Jr.'s battle because Truex Jr. was leading and Chastain was second and they were coming up to Larson. Larson let Truex through but held up Chastain for around about a lap and that destroyed his shot at race win. So Larson did get his revenge.
Of sorts, because we had the late caution and it all came back together again. But and my final knot. Okay, well, me and Matthew will talk about the Chastain thing on the pre-race show on Sunday for Kansas on USRN. It's been discussed in our group chat, and I will hold my peace on more of it until we get to the pre-show. My final knot of the week. I didn't catch the Saturday sprint race of Formula 1 live, but I'd seen that something had gone on, and then when I caught up with it, was shaking my head. Because no one can race Max Verstappen, it seems, without him claiming that he was being raced far too hard. That was whatever it was, but the radio messages, especially from GP, go, "Oh, you managed to make a clean pass. Well done." He's a double world champion. He should be able to make clean passes, and they're only 20 miles up the road from me, Red Bull. They probably should have me as a fan, being that they're my local team. Goodness me, every single week it's something else, and we'll probably get more at Imola and Miami this week and Imola in a couple of weeks of more Red Bull nonsense. It's just drives me insane.
I love how Max Verstappen has called out George Russell for being a crasher when Max Verstappen, Max Verstappen. I mean, I'm pretty sure Max Verstappen went through a very long phase of just hitting people, and he's still doing it to this day. Yeah, Russell's hit a few as well, but they're both as bad as each other, but Max is a million times worse. I said this. Max is like Senna and Schumacher. I know people say, what an honour to be compared to them. No, it's not, because being compared to Senna and Schumacher in a position where you are a dangerous driver in that context is still bad, because Senna and Schumacher both used to do, if they would go up the inside and you are going to crash, and they leave it up to you to decide whether or not you can have the accident or not. And that's exactly what Verstappen's doing. It's something I think he's got from his father Jos as sort of a tip. And it's a horrible, horrible bit of advice, because Max will never learn. I'll tell you this right now. Max will not be a likable driver until he leaves Red Bull, because he's being spoon-fed by Christian Horner and the entire team, just like Sebastian Vettel was as well, and even to an extent Daniel Ricciardo. Max is going to be their golden child that they can do no wrong until he stops winning. And I generally have a feeling that this year, Perez might just say, right, I've had enough of this. I'm not going to do what the team did. A bit like Webber in 2010. I'm not going to go what the team says. I'll do my own thing. And we're seeing that now, because Max wanted to be let through on Perez in Azerbaijan. It didn't happen. And I love how it's every time Perez beats him, we get this moaning, whining child in Verstappen. Happened in Saudi Arabia. It happened here in Azerbaijan. And it is getting ridiculous. Rosberg used to do the same thing. Hamilton did the same thing as well. I don't know if it's a world champion thing, but they need to stop moaning and realize that they're still in a major title fight. If I was earning what they did, I wouldn't be moaning. I'd be having a whale of a time. But no, it is a passion. Yeah, one day. But it is a passion, but no.
One other quick Formula One mention while we're talking about it was, as soon as that picture flashed up on screen of Nick De Vries's car stopped, that was it. Race control, safety car, bang.
Yeah.
Why they had to wait, I have no idea. But it did actually cost Max the race, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, well, that's a safety car. You get to be able to pull him in. And kind of ended up being the other way around, which was a bit odd, but hey ho.
Same thing in the sprint race as well, with a tyre in the middle of the track and a car stranded, no safety car. And they went past it before it came out. So that was ridiculous. In fact, that one should have actually been a red flag, because there was more debris across the surface of the metal kind. Yeah. So that should have actually been a red flag, and it wasn't. But maybe a not is once again the FIA. Maybe the stewards of all series should just be sacked and redone with people who can actually, be good. Maybe we should get the ball spotters from Wimbledon to do it. They seem to be always know when it's in or out.
Pretty awful that the two premier motorsport categories in the world, MotoGP and F1, are let down so poorly by stewarding. Dima says, is the background the International Autodrome? Yes. Hard Rock Stadium. We're going there for the Grand Prix on Sunday, Demas. And Matthew says, give a lot of credit to Larson for his revenge. A bit like Chase Elliott did at Bristol a couple of years ago to Kevin Harvick as well, when he came back out after the damage and slowed him up. So that seems to be the new revenge ploy, instead of knocking people out of the way. But we'll see if anything happens over the next couple of weeks in NASCAR. Big week for a big month for NASCAR, and obviously big month for F1 and IndyCar, with multiple races coming up. We'll talk about it all, and the hots and nots from all of it coming up over the next couple of weeks. Looking forward to the big month of May.
Right back at you, Matt, and I can't wait, because I think USRN's got live coverage of practice, the same as us as well, because I know we're co-broadcasting some of the IndyCar, so that's going to be absolutely fantastic as well. Okay, taking a look at our upcoming schedule as well here on the Grid Network. On Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, Women in Motorsports is on as well. Saturday, noon Eastern, we've got Grid Live pre-race. And as well, that'll also take a look back at the Formula E race from Monaco as well. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up show. That's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway. And Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Grid Live Encore, a full recap of ARCA and Trucks at Kansas. I'm trying not to sneeze right now as well. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Thank you for helping reach the milestone of 600 subscribers. Now help us reach our new goal of 700 subscribers on the road to 1,000 as well. And let's see if we can get to 700 before the Indy 500 as well at the end of the month. Don't forget to hit the bell icon as well to get notifications of when we go live and post videos, and follow all our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin and David in investing each month in the Grid Network, and we encourage you to join the amazing group of people who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start expanding our coverage, adding new members to the team, and an increased Grid Network presence on site, covering the races from the track and more content. The link for that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they'll thank you on the air. For Ben Schneider, Kobe Lambeth at the podium finish, and Matt White from Grid PI, I'm Joshua Birch. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.